From some of the best sales to incredible games, and taking it up a notch with free games every few weeks, the Epic Games Store has it all. But now they've taken it a step further and introduced self-publishing for game developers. Let's talk about it, starting with the announcement. Epic Games itself made the announcement.
Long time no see. Major Krauser? Why?
That too on March 9th, 2023. Despite this, they provided many details that were more than just useful to game developers everywhere. But before I get into that, let's talk about the announcement itself. The company talked about how it wanted to help developers reach a wider audience of over 60 million people. Not just that, but they'd be able to handle their store presence by themselves while also directly interacting with gamers.
Die to save the world.
Truly bringing back the community aspect of gaming itself. The process itself isn't that hard either. They must sign up as a developer on their website and agree to the terms and conditions. Though developers will be charged $100 USD for every game they want to publish. That's not a lot for the number of features they get. That's not all. Developers can even upload games currently being made with coming soon pages that show off adequate gameplay and more, going so far as to have players test their games for them.
Flash is alive.
And he has Luther.
Fortunately, they have a set of requirements in place. Each game must meet certain criteria in order to be included in the store. This is a welcome change, especially after Steam left itself unmonitored and is now full of games that are Unity asset flips. While there's nothing wrong with that, it leaves the door open for really bad games that aren't even complete, ultimately ruining things for both new developers and gamers alike. I mean, who can forget about that 2,000 USD game that was barely a complete level? With that said, what's the revenue share going to be like? Before I get into that, let's look at what other stores that offer self-publishing features charge developers. Of course, I'll start by talking about Steam first, since it's the biggest out there. At the moment, at least at the time of making this video, the platform is offering developers a split of 80-20%, though it's much more complicated than that. That split only applies if your game has sold over 50 million copies, including DLC and other additional things gamers might buy. But if your sales are less than that, but still over 10 million, then they bump that down to a 75-25% split. And it's even worse if your sales are lower than that. The rich get richer, while all kinds of indie developers who make up most of the games on the platform don't get much in return. Things aren't much better over at GOG either, with a 70-30% cut. And if your game needs some work on it, they do help you out, but take up a chunk of the profits too, ending with either 60-40% or at worst 50-50%. It's been called out for that a bunch of times, and despite that, there haven't been any changes. That's where Epic Games comes in, offering developers the highest profit ratio as of yet, with an incredible 88-12% split, making it an incredible avenue for new devs. It's truly being made for devs by devs themselves. And finally, someone who listens to you. Though it will be harder to get into, mainly because they're making sure each game is up to standard, it's more than worth the extra effort. It's definitely incredible news.
Factions.
But what could this mean for the world of games? While most of what you get to see are big games made by the best of the best companies out there, most people don't know that more than half of the games out there are made by small studios. And honestly, most of the time, they're a much better experience than most AAA games out there, at least these days.
What's gonna happen to me?
We gotta keep moving forward. We will beat this.
I mean, big studios have stopped trying to put out complete and optimized games at this point. It's heartbreaking. On the other hand, you've got these smaller creators who come up with the wildest ideas and craziest visuals and make them work. Games like Neon White, Eastward, and even The Pathless are just incredible examples of how you don't need to be huge to make something incredible. It's no surprise that publishers want big studios to put out games really fast, and their creativity is sometimes held back just for the sake of being marketable to a wider audience. If Epic Games sticks to its word, then you could see a whole new series of games that hasn't been seen since the PS2 era. AA studios might be a thing once again and put some of the most experimental pieces out there once again. It's no wonder that it's got gamers and devs just as excited. And I have to talk about the games people make just for the heck of it that at times end up being incredibly fun experiences. You and I, as the customer, gain a lot from this, along with creators getting more revenue to work with. On the other hand, how are more games going to stand out? While it may pave the way for many more game developers to receive better payment and recognition for their work, it's going to be much harder for them to actually stand out. Luckily, a lot of streamers and YouTube gamers are always on the hunt for cool, new, and weirder titles. So this might work out great for them, but that's if they manage to properly convey what the game is about and build some hype around it themselves. So you're going to see a lot of marketing for them. Not just that, but the developers are going to have to bear the cost of all of it themselves as well. That is, if they can't find a publisher for their games. While the store itself would display the game, it can't market each and every game as much. Plus, their creator affiliate program helps them get bigger. With that said, what do developers need to avoid on the platform? There are several things that developers must avoid if they want their game to be available on the store. Of course, first and foremost, it shouldn't promote hatred, racism, or bigotry in general, and it shouldn't be a scam. And with the increase of so-called crypto games these days, that's honestly a great thing. And obviously, it shouldn't have anything illegal in it, but that's pretty easy to avoid unless you're going to be making something super controversial. But there are still ways to make it not so obvious, and you just need to be creative. Other than that, they just want quality games on the platform, so products need a certain amount of polish. On top of that, all games have to support cross-play between all PC platforms. And finally, Tim Sweeney talks about it. He is, of course, the CEO of Epic Games itself. In a recent interview, he talked about how the entire gaming ecosystem on PC has been broken for a while, and now they intend to fix that issue with the new self-publishing tools at the hands of developers. Not just that, but unlike Steam, they're offering age ratings to the newest titles as well. They've spent a lot of time trying to perfect how they pull this off, learning from other platforms' mistakes. That's why it took the company so long to enter the space. That concludes our look at what self-publishing on the Epic Store could mean for game developers.